I still remember the night my whole world almost collapsed. I stood in the open doorway of our small house, the cold evening air hitting my face as my husband stumbled toward me. His clothes were dusty, his eyes red, and his hands shaking. But that was not what broke me. It was what he said, and what he didn't hold in his hands. "I sold him," he whispered, swaying like a broken tree ready to fall. "I sold our son. They said they would give me $500. I just wanted to drink small, Evelyn." My legs went weak. "Sold our first son." And before I could even scream, he added, "They tricked me. They took the child, and they took the money before I even reached home." My heart stopped. My head rang. My voice refused to come out. My baby, my only baby then, had been exchanged like a broken chair. My husband had traded our son for alcohol and had not even gotten the money. Scammers had taken both the child and the cash, leaving him empty-handed. I wanted to faint, scream, hit him, tear the sky open, anything. But all I could do was stare at him as he knelt, crying like a little boy. And that was when something even more shocking happened. Now let me tell you how my life led to this very moment. Before that terrible evening, my life was simple. Not happy, not perfect, just simple. I grew up in a quiet town where everyone knew everyone. When I married my husband, Henry, he was charming, funny, hardworking. Or at least, he pretended to be. I was too young to understand what addiction looked like hiding behind a handsome smile. When we first got married, people joked that Henry could make even a stone laugh. He was the type of man who danced in the rain, who made the neighbors laugh during market days, who sang loudly even if his voice cracked like old bamboo. He had a way of turning ordinary days into something funny. In those early days, I believed I had married a treasure. But treasure can rot too. After our wedding, the first change I saw was small. Henry started celebrating more. A little drink with friends, then a little more. Then a little more after that, more. He always said the same thing: "Evelyn, life is too short to be sad. Drink small." But I did not drink, and I did not understand why my husband needed alcohol to feel alive. At first, it was only weekends. Then it became every evening. Then it was every day, morning, afternoon, night. I was expecting our first child when things became worse. Henry lost his job but kept saying it was a big deal. Every time I tried to talk to him, he would laugh it off or promise to change. But promises without action are empty, and Henry's promises had more holes than our leaking roof. Still, I stayed. I told myself he would change when the baby arrived. People say a child softens even the hardest heart, but alcohol has a way of making the heart blind. When I gave birth to our son, a handsome boy I named Brian, I felt like God placed a fresh start in my arms. But Henry did not see a fresh start. He saw a distraction, something that took my attention away from him, and like a jealous child, he acted out. Some days he made me laugh. He would carry Brian around the house pretending to be a king with a royal baby. He would dance with him, sing funny songs, even tell ridiculous stories that made the baby giggle. Those were the high moments, the peaceful days, the soft days, the days I prayed would last forever. Then there were the low days. Days when Henry came home smelling like he had bathed in alcohol. Days when he shouted at me for no reason. Days when I hid Brian in our bedroom because he talked too loud and stumbled too much. One afternoon, Henry rushed into the house with excitement glowing on his face. "Evelyn, I found a business idea." My heart lifted a little. "Really?" "Yes, but I need $500 to start. Just 500. We will be rich in no time." I stared at him. "Where will we get that kind of money?" He smiled, a smile too wide to trust. "Don't worry, I will handle it." Whenever Henry said, "I will handle it," disaster usually followed. That day came and went. Henry left the house early the next morning, acting secretive. We had no money. I knew that. He knew that. So I prayed quietly that he would not do anything foolish. But foolishness and alcohol are twins. Hours passed and he did not return. Evening reached and still no sight of him. My stomach twisted. Brian cried. The sky darkened. The house grew quiet except for my baby's small whimpers. When I heard footsteps approaching, I ran to the door hopping, praying. He did not bring trouble. Instead, he brought the worst news a mother could hear. That moment, the moment I stood frozen, listening to my husband confess that he had sold our first son, was the breaking point of my entire existence. He said he met businessmen who told him they needed a child for a special purpose and were willing to pay him $500. He believed them. He handed over our child. He waited for his payment. They pretended to count the money in their car and drove away laughing. He didn't chase them. He was too drunk. I felt anger rising in my chest like fire. My hands shook. Tears blurred my vision. How could a father sell his son? And for what alcohol? A few hours of foolish happiness. But just as I opened my mouth to scream, something happened outside the house. Someone shouted. Something fell. Then a voice yelled my name with panic. That was when the next extreme event hit my life like thunder, and everything changed again. The moment I heard my name being shouted outside, my heart skipped. I rushed to the doorway, my hands trembling, not knowing what new disaster was waiting. The night was cold, the moon the only light guiding my eyes. Henry staggered behind me, still crying and begging for forgiveness, but I pushed him aside. I needed to see who was calling me. Standing at the front of our house was our neighbor, Mr. Collins, a tall, strong man with a serious face that rarely showed fear. But today, fear was written all over him. "Evelyn," he shouted again, breathing hard. "Come quickly. I think we found something near the old mango tree." My heart jumped. "What did you find?" He wiped sweat from his forehead. "A basket, a small one. I think it's just come." Before he even finished, I ran. I didn't care that my legs felt like rubber. I didn't care that my eyes were blurry with tears. I didn't care that I was barefoot on the rough ground. I only cared about one thing, my son. As I ran, I could hear Henry behind me, stumbling and crying. "I'm sorry, Evelyn. I didn't mean it. I thought it was the alcohol. I didn't know." I didn't listen. My ears shut him out. My mind focused only on hope, a small, fragile hope. We reached the mango tree, the same place we used to sit as newlyweds, sharing roasted corn and laughing. But now it was a place of fear. "Mister," Collins pointed at a small woven basket on the ground. My heart raced. I rushed forward, my hands shaking so much that I almost dropped the lid. I opened the basket, and a cry filled the air. My baby, my sweet baby, my little boy, wrapped in a thin cloth, his small fists waving, his face red from crying but alive. I screamed with joy and scooped him into my arms. I cried so loudly the whole compound could hear me. "Oh, thank you, God, thank you," I cried, hugging Brian to my chest, kissing every part of his tiny face. But then a cold thought hit me. Why was he here? If those scammers had stolen him, why would they bring him back? Why leave him by a tree like a forgotten parcel? Something was wrong. Mr. Collins knelt beside me. I was coming from my sister's house when I heard a baby crying. I followed the sound and saw this basket. Evelyn, someone must have dropped him there. Maybe they were scared. Scared? Or planning something worse? Before I could think deeper, Henry arrived, panting and crying even harder. When he saw the baby in my arms, he fell to his knees. "Thank you, God. Evelyn, forgive me. Please forgive me. I didn't know what I was doing." I turned to him sharply. My tears dried into anger. "You sold our son, Henry," I screamed. "You sold him for alcohol. Do you even understand what you did?" Henry bowed his head, covering his face. "I'm a fool, a big fool. Please don't take him away from me, please." "Take him away from you," I shouted. "You already did that yourself." Neighbors gathered, whispering, gasping, shaking their heads. Mothers held their own children closer, as if protecting them from Henry's weakness. I held Brian close, rocking him gently. He was safe for now. But deep inside, fear began to grow like weeds. What if the scammers returned? What if they changed their mind? What if they wanted something more? I took Brian inside the house and locked the door. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. I sat by the window holding my baby, watching the dark path outside, waiting for footsteps that never came. Henry slept on the floor, shaking from both cold and shame. Sometimes he woke and begged for forgiveness, but I gave him no answer. Silence was the only thing I could offer him. The next morning, I made a decision. A hard one. A painful one. A decision that would shape the next part of my life. I packed my clothes. I packed Brian's clothes. I put some food in a small bag. I strapped my son on my back. Henry woke up with swollen eyes. "Evelyn, where are you going?" "Away from you," I said quietly. "I can't stay with a man who can sell his own child. I need to protect my son." He crawled to my feet. "Please, don't go. I will change. I will stop drinking, I promise. Evelyn, please don't leave me." I shook my head. A man who can sell his son once can do it again. I will not take that chance. I opened the door. He grabbed my leg, crying, begging, shouting. But I stepped out. And that was when something unexpected, something terrible, happened right in front of the house. A black car pulled up. Slowly. Silently. The same kind of car Henry described from the night before. 3 men stepped out. And one of them said the words that froze my blood. "Where is the child? We have come back for him." The words hit me like a stone to the chest. Where is the child? We have come back for him. For a moment, everything around me went silent. Even the breeze seemed to stop. My hands tightened around Brian's tiny body, and my knees almost gave way. Henry, who was still kneeling on the floor, looked up slowly, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and dreadful recognition. The men stepped closer. They were tall, dressed in dark clothes, their faces calm but cold, too calm for people who had stolen a baby the night before. The tallest man, the one who had spoken, took a slow step forward. His shoes crunched against the dry ground. Henry scrambled to his feet, shaking. I didn't know it was wrong," he stammered. "I was drunk. I didn't mean to." The man cut him off with a single look. "Quiet." Henry froze. My heart thumped so hard I thought it might break out of my chest. I held Brian closer, feeling his soft breath on my neck. The second man spoke. "We didn't come for trouble. Just give us the child and we will go." My knees trembled. "He is my son," I whispered. "You cannot take him." The third man smirked. "Your husband already made the deal." My anger rose, mixing with fear. He was drunk. That is not a deal. That is wickedness. The first man's voice became more serious. "We placed the child by the mango tree because people were watching us last night. We left before things got complicated. But we need him back. Hand him over quietly." I stepped back, shaking my head. "No, never." Henry moved closer to them, holding his hands up like a scared child. "Please, please, I will pay you back. I will work for you. I will do anything. Just leave the baby." One of the men scoffed. "Pay? You could not pay even for your own drink. How will you pay a debt of $500? Henry collapsed to his knees again. The men began to spread out slowly, trying to surround me. Panic shot through my entire body like lightning. I clutched my son and ran into the house, slamming the door shut and locking it instantly. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the key. I could hear them outside, knocking, then banging. "Evelyn," Henry shouted from outside. "Open the door, let me talk to them." "No," I screamed. "You will only make it worse." I backed away from the door, holding Brian tightly. The banging grew louder. My legs shook. My heart sank. Brian started crying loudly, sensing the fear in the air. I whispered into his hair, "It's okay, baby. Mommy is here. Mommy will protect you." But even I did not know how. The men outside grew impatient. One shouted, "We don't want to hurt anyone, but we will break this door if you don't open it." My breathing became shallow. The room felt smaller, hotter. I felt trapped. I moved toward the back door, but before I reached it, I heard footsteps behind the house too. They were everywhere. Henry was outside shouting, "Please leave her alone. Please. She will die if you take her baby." The men ignored him. My mind raced. I looked around the room. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere safe. Then suddenly, a loud, violent kick hit the front door. The wood shook. Brian cried louder. I screamed. Another kick. Harder. The frame cracked. I backed into the corner, holding my child so tight I could barely feel my arms. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I imagined the worst, my son being taken away forever, his tiny hands reaching out for me while strangers carried him away. Just when the door was about to break, a loud voice echoed from outside. "Hey, what do you think you are doing?" It was Mr. Collins. He wasn't alone. Behind him were over 10 men from the community, neighbors, friends, even the old carpenter who barely walked without a stick. They stood together like an angry army, ready to fight. The banging on my door stopped. One of the men outside said, "This is none of your business." Mr. Collins replied, "In this community, every child is our business." Another man added, "Touch that door again, and you will regret stepping into this compound." The scammers looked around. They were outnumbered. And this was not their neighborhood. They had no power here. The leader glared at the door, then at the crowd. "This is not the end," he hissed. "We will be back." They got into their car and drove away, the tires kicking up dust. I opened the door slowly, still shaking, Brian crying against my chest. When I saw the neighbors standing protectively outside, I broke down completely. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. Mr. Collins placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You are safe now, but you must leave this house today." I nodded through tears. I was already packing. Henry slowly approached, crying, "Evelyn, I am sorry, please don't take him away from me." But the neighbors stepped between us. One said, "If she stayed with you, she and that baby would die." Another added, "A man who can sell his own son is not a husband." Henry looked at me with pain in his eyes, but I couldn't even look back. I picked up my bag, strapped Brian on my back again, and walked away. My husband fell to the ground, screaming my name, crying like a child. I did not turn back. I followed Mr. Collins and the neighbors to his house for safety. But as the door closed behind me, as I held my son close and tried to breathe, something new, a new extreme event, was already waiting for me. Something that would change my life again. Something I never expected. I didn't know that when I stepped into Mr. Collins' house that day, leaving Henry crying on the dusty ground behind me. My life was walking straight into another storm, one that would shake everything I thought I knew about myself, my marriage, and even my future. I sat on the wooden chair in Mr. Collins' living room, still trembling, holding Brian close to my chest. His tiny fingers clung to my dress as if he knew the world outside wasn't safe anymore. Mr. Collins' wife, Mrs. Harper, a calm woman with soft eyes, handed me a cup of warm tea. "You are safe here," she whispered. "Nobody will take your baby." But even her gentle voice couldn't stop my tears. I cried quietly at first, then loudly, then silently again. My heart felt like it had been crushed into tiny pieces. I didn't know if I was crying because of fear, shame, anger, or the pain of seeing the father of my child fall so low that he could sell his own blood. Maybe I was crying for all those reasons. Mr. Collins walked in after speaking to some of the men outside. He closed the door, his face serious. "You cannot stay long," he said. "Those men may return, or they may try something else." My chest tightened. "What do I do? Where do I go?" "Go to your sister in the next town," he replied. "Leave today, tonight even. The further away you are from this place, the safer you and the baby will be." Mrs. Harper nodded. "Yes, you need distance." My mind raced. I had no money, no plan, no strength, only a baby and a heart full of fear. But survival is a powerful teacher. "I'll go," I whispered, "whatever it takes." Mrs. Harper helped me gather my things, while Mr. Collins spoke to some of the neighbors to arrange a motorcycle that would take me to the next town. Everything felt rushed, urgent, like smoke filling a room. Just when I started tying Brian onto my back again, someone knocked loudly on the door. I froze. Mr. Collins motioned for silence. The knock came again, louder. He walked to the door and called out, "Who is it?" A familiar voice answered. "It's me, Henry." My heart dropped into my stomach. Mrs. Harper's eyes widened. "Don't open it." But Henry shouted again, voice shaking, "Please, Mr. Collins, please let me see my wife. Please, I'm not here to cause trouble, I promise." Mr. Collins looked at me. Should I tell him to go? I swallowed hard, my throat tight. I didn't want to see him. I didn't even want to hear his voice. But something inside me, maybe pain, maybe unfinished anger, made me whisper, "Let him talk, but don't let him inside." Mr. Collins opened the door just a crack, blocking the entrance with his body. Henry stood there, looking like a man who had aged 10 years in one night. His eyes were red and swollen. His clothes were dusty. His hands shook. "Please," he whispered, "let me see her." Mr. Collins turned slightly, so I was visible but still protected. Henry saw me and burst into tears. "Evelyn," he sobbed, "I know I hurt you. I know I almost destroyed our child, but something else happened after you left." I clutched Brian tighter. "What else, Henry? What more is there to destroy?" He wiped his eyes, shaking his head. "Those men, they came back, not to find you, to find me." My heartbeat quickened. "Why?" "They said I cheated them," he said, voice shaking. "They said the deal wasn't complete. They said I owed them. They said they would make sure I paid with my life." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Mr. Collins frowned. "Good for you. Maybe that will teach you." But Henry shook his head violently. "No, you don't understand. They were waiting near our house. They followed me when I came out. They said if I didn't bring them the baby or the money within 2 days, they will finish me." My breath caught. "They said they will find you too," Henry continued, tears pouring. "Evelyn, you must leave this town. Please, I beg you, don't let them find you." For the first time since this nightmare started, Henry wasn't crying for himself. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't lying. He was genuinely terrified for us. But his fear didn't erase what he had done. "You sold our baby," I said softly, the pain thick in my voice. "You sold him like he was a bag of oranges. Do you even know what that did to me?" Henry collapsed to the ground, crying into his hands. "I am a monster. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But please run, protect our son." Mrs. Harper whispered, "Evelyn, you should go now." Mr. Collins nodded. "You have to leave before nightfall." I turned and grabbed my bag. My hands shook as I tied it. Brian whimpered softly, sensing my fear. Henry looked up at me one last time. "I will try to hold them off," he said. "Whatever happens to me, take care of our son. Don't let him grow up like me." I stared at him long and hard. Then I said the words that had been buried deep inside my broken heart. "I forgive you, Henry, but I can never live with you again." He cried harder, but I didn't stay to watch. I stepped out of the house, walked past him, and didn't look back. The motorcycle arrived. Mr. Collins helped me climb on. Mrs. Harper kissed Brian's forehead and squeezed my hand. "Go," she whispered. "Go and live." The motorcycle engine started, loud and shaky. As we rode off, I saw Henry standing in the distance, his shoulders slumped, his face full of regret. For a moment, he looked like the man I once loved, before alcohol destroyed him. We rode for over an hour. The wind whipped my face. My eyes burned from the dust and tears. I looked down at Brian, sleeping softly on my back. My baby, my miracle, my reason for staying alive. When we reached the next town, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. I didn't know what my future held. I didn't know if the men would chase me. I didn't know if Henry would survive. All I knew was that I was far away from danger, for now. My sister welcomed me with tears and shock. She hugged me tight, fed me, gave me a room, and helped me settle in. Slowly, my life began to rebuild. Days grew calmer. Nights grew safer. Brian grew stronger. Months passed. One day, I received a letter. It was from Henry's cousin. Henry had died. Not from the men, but from drinking himself into sickness. I cried hard when I read the news, not because I wanted him back, but because I wished he had lived long enough to become better, even if not for me, at least for himself. But life is not always fair, and sometimes people destroy themselves before life even tries. I held the letter close, tears falling softly. Then I looked at my son, crawling on the floor, laughing at the sunlight. And I made a promise. I will raise you with love, Brian, but I will also teach you never to let weakness control your life. I will tell you your father's story, not to shame him, but to save you. Because that was the lesson life had given me. Addiction destroys, weakness invites danger, but courage saves. My story was painful, but it made me stronger. And today, as I tell you this story, I want you to learn something too. Protect your peace, protect your children, and never, ever let anyone's weakness become your downfall. My son became my strength, my pain became my wisdom, and my escape became the beginning of my new life. Thanks for watching. Drop your comment about this video. And please subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos.